laid up for like fucking 6 years. And it's so, you've got no idea how I feel. Man, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Unfortunately, we've come to our final song ever.
Those were some of the last words Ozzy Osbourne ever shared with his fans. And what no one realized was that the Prince of Darkness had already come to terms with his destiny.
I'm dying. It's a fact. There's no need for a doctor to tell me. That farewell performance was something I insisted on doing. I don't want to disappear silently. I have to say goodbye in person.
Just hours before his passing, on July 22nd, 2025, Ozzy dropped a chilling backstage photo from his final concert with just 2 eerie words, "Back to the beginning." But this wasn't just some throwback post, as Ozzy knew what was coming. The timing, the setup, it was all too precise. The farewell show was literally called Back to the Beginning. That last photo, straight up haunting. And the way he moved in those final weeks, it was like he was wrapping everything up, preparing for the end on his own terms. This didn't feel random at all. It was as if Ozzy orchestrated every single moment leading up to his exit, not as a victim, but as the mastermind of his own final act. Then, just weeks earlier on July 5th, Ozzy pulled off something wild, something doctors swore was out of the question. Despite not being able to walk and battling Parkinson's for over 20 years, he walked out on that stage at Villa Park in Birmingham and gave fans one last legendary performance. He called it his final bow.
Laid up for like fucking 6 years. And it's so, you've got no idea how I feel. Man, thank you from the bottom of my...
And he meant every word. For 6 long years, he'd been basically confined to bed, locked in a losing fight with a brutal disease that was tearing him down piece by piece. But Ozzy didn't go out quiet. He went out legendary. But somehow, Ozzy dug deep and found the strength for one final show. The real question isn't how he did it. It's why he had to. Sharon spent an entire year pulling strings, planning, and pushing to make the concert happen. But what hits hardest? Ozzy wasn't just going along with it. He demanded to perform. Even with his body failing, even when standing brought him pain, he refused to let his legacy fade into silence. He wasn't going out without a roar. The show was called Back to the Beginning, and for a reason, it brought together the original Black Sabbath lineup for the last time ever. Over 40,000 fans packed into Villa Park, with nearly 6 million more locked into the live stream across the globe. The lineup, absolutely stacked. Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Alice in Chains, all rock legends in their own right. But let's be real, everybody was there for Ozzy. He performed seated on a black leather throne because his legs couldn't carry him anymore. But when it came to his voice, that raw, haunting wail that defined an entire genre, it was still undeniable. He tore through War Pigs, NIB, Iron Man, and Paranoid like they were battle cries. Each lyric hit like a final message, a farewell wrapped in thunder. And here's the twist. Every cent of that night, reportedly $190 million, was donated. Birmingham Children's Hospital, Acorns Children's Hospice, and Cure Parkinson's all received pieces of Ozzy's final gift. This wasn't just about music. This was a man putting things right, making sure his last move helped others still fighting their own battles.
I just want to say to you on behalf of the guys in Black Sabbath and myself, that your support over the years has made it all possible for us to live a lifestyle we live. Thank you from the bottom of our heart. I love you, we love you.
This wasn't just thankfulness, it was Ozzy closing the chapter with purpose. Not just saying goodbye to the fans, but to a life that gave him everything and took a toll just as deep. And as the lights dimmed, he faced the crowd one last time and whispered, "Thank you. God bless you all. That's good night." What a way to bow out. 17 days later, he was gone. Just hours before his passing, Ozzy Osbourne made one last post on Instagram, and it wasn't a goodbye, no emotional caption, no final message, just a single backstage photo from his farewell concert capturing the sign above his dressing room door. His name in bold letters with photos of the original Black Sabbath lineup underneath. But what really gave people chills? The words printed across the top, back to the beginning, that wasn't just a throwback, it was a message. A quiet, powerful one. Ozzy knew what was happening. This wasn't some accident of timing. He wasn't clinging to life in confusion. He was aware and he was ready.
You feel immortal?
No. I feel lucky to be alive and not immortal because I've done some pretty damn crazy stuff in my life.
He once said, I felt lucky to be alive. Felt, not feel. That little shift in words said it all. He didn't say he was thankful to still be breathing or living every day to the fullest. He spoke in the past tense like he already knew his time was almost up. That kind of clarity doesn't come from fear, it comes from acceptance. And that Instagram post dropped just hours before he passed. It reads like a quiet final chapter. Not a man surprised by death, but a man who had been walking toward it with his eyes wide open. In those final weeks, Ozzy wasn't fading away. He was crafting his exit moment by moment. He made sure to spend time with all 6 of his children, creating real memories with his grandkids, and reconnecting with old friends and his legendary bandmates. Nothing felt random. Every moment was intentional. Every hug, every word felt like part of a final act. Even Kelly's engagement to Sid Wilson. That happened backstage, right after the farewell show, like life was still being celebrated, even as Ozzy was getting ready to say goodbye.
Kelly, you know I love you more than anything in the world.
I'm married my daughter.
Nothing would make me happier. You spend the rest.
The timing wasn't some random twist of fate. Ozzy planned that moment down to the second. He made sure he was alive and well enough to see his daughter's engagement before he left this world. He knew deep down he wouldn't live to see the wedding, but he made sure he was present for the proposal. The photos from that night don't lie. Ozzy looked lit up, not just from the epic performance, but from the pride of watching his family shine. This wasn't just some emotional lucky break. Ozzy had been piecing together these moments for months. Long before that night, back when his health was crashing hard and he could barely face the mirror, Sharon saw the signs. He was slipping into what he later called Doomtown, a dark mental space where every morning hit him like a new betrayal from his own body. But instead of letting that pain define his final days, Ozzy flipped the script. While the world saw a frail man battling Parkinson's, what was really going down was the most calculated personal performance of his entire life. His own exit plan. And if you look close, the clues were everywhere. That farewell concert wasn't some rushed goodbye because time was running out. Nah, it was Ozzy calling the shots, deciding exactly how he wanted to go out. The $190 million in charity donations. Not a last-minute PR move. Those were hand-picked causes, chosen with intention, designed to give his ending meaning. And those family memories, those weren't random, sweet moments. Ozzy made sure they happened. He created space for final bonding, for laughter, for love, and that's what hit hardest. This was a man making peace and building legacy at the same time. All his psychiatric evaluations over the years had said the same thing. Ozzy couldn't be boxed in, couldn't be figured out by standard medicine. That same unpredictability is what gave him the power to face death on his terms with razor-sharp clarity that stunned everyone around him. So, was it a miracle that the farewell concert happened in Birmingham? Or was it all just part of the master plan? That concert wasn't luck, and that title, Back to the Beginning, was no accident. It was Ozzy Osbourne writing his final chapter his way. That concert title, Back to the Beginning, was no random pick. It was a deliberate move to frame his death as a full circle moment, not just the end of the road. In his final interviews, Ozzy didn't sound like a man drowning in fear. He had stopped fighting the inevitable and started working with it. The sadness he spoke of, it wasn't desperation. It was the kind of heavy emotion that comes from truly understanding the weight of life and making peace with the end. The world saw a man weakened by illness, but what they missed was the insane strength it took to plan such an intricate farewell, right down to the tiniest detail. Yeah, his body was breaking down, but beneath all that, Ozzy was locked in, emotionally and spiritually preparing for his final curtain call. That kind of clarity, rare. The brilliance of his last act wasn't in some flashy grand finale. It was in the quiet. No big countdown, no dramatic press tour, no shock value theatrics, Just a man getting his house in order, tying loose ends, and making sure every goodbye meant something. His whole life had been about turning crazy dreams into reality through sheer willpower, and this final dream, he pulled it off with the same level of control that built his entire legacy. Ozzy had once joked that he'd be the main event at the end of the world, and in a way, he kept that promise. He didn't just pass away, he performed his death like only he could, turning the end into one last unforgettable act that felt more like a masterpiece than a tragedy.
Unfortunately, we come to our final song for ever.
The Prince of Darkness didn't just fade out, he directed his own ending with legendary precision. And when he said those last words from the stage, "That's good night," he wasn't being sentimental. He meant it. No "see you next time," no "until we meet again." Just good night, curtain closed, legacy sealed. Good night, final, complete, the true end of the show. And in the days after Ozzy's passing, the music world lit up with tributes. Metallica, Elton John, members of Guns N' Roses, every corner of rock paid their respects. But what had people really talking? It wasn't just the love, it was how ready his family seemed. No chaos, no confusion. Everything was already in place. Like Ozzy had left behind a script they were simply following. Even the family's official statement, it read like something carefully crafted, not rushed in heartbreak. There was no panic in their words, just calm, closure, and peace. It was clear. They'd been given the time to process, to say goodbye, and to carry out his wishes exactly as he'd laid them out. Think about it. Kelly's engagement happening right after the final concert, the massive charity donations already arranged, and that chilling final Instagram post, all timed perfectly. This wasn't some coincidence. This was a man who had spent months choreographing his exit with the same precision he used on stage.
People take me or leave me. I mean, I'm just Ozzy Osbourne, and I always will be Ozzy Osbourne. I'm not going to be like Frank Sinatra. I mean, you couldn't imagine me like this going, "I'll do it my way," and all that, you know.
And make no mistake, Ozzy did this his way. Not as some wild rebel raging against the end, but as someone who had accepted it and decided to take control of it. The so-called madman showed the world just how much power he really had, not in chaos, but in calm preparation. That's what makes his final act so legendary. Ozzy didn't just leave the stage, he owned it until the last breath. He died the same way he lived, calling the shots, owning the narrative, and turning life into a show no one will ever forget. He gave the world what it needed, one last unforgettable performance while protecting what mattered most, his family, his peace, and his story. The same man who spent decades shocking the world with wild antics and off-the-wall moves pulled off his most shocking act ever, a death that was quiet, calculated, and perfectly timed. And Ozzy's legacy, it goes way beyond the music. Sure, songs like Crazy Train and Iron Man are immortal. They'll blast through speakers forever, but his impact didn't stop at the mic. He shaped reality TV, flipped the script on what it meant to be a rock star, and lived a life that never played by the rules. But the real magic? It's in the way he turned even death into an act of pure creativity. A final chapter designed with smarts, soul, and purpose. That unforgettable voice, raspy, raw, full of fire, that's what the world will always remember. But for those who really watched closely during those last few months, there's more. They'll remember the mind that never faded, the intelligence behind every move, and the heart that made sure his last act wasn't just about him, but about giving back. Ozzy didn't just leave a legacy. He built a blueprint for how to exit with grace, guts, and greatness. If you felt this tribute, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with every Ozzy fan you know. Drop your thoughts and favorite Ozzy moments in the comments below. We want to hear them all. And as always, see you on the next one. Stay loud, stay legendary.